And you mentioned that you are anti-abortion rights, and I want to talk about how Louisiana currently has one of the most strictest abortion bans. There's some exceptions, but should you be elected governor and a bill would pass that would allow exceptions for rape and incest, would you be in support of that?
You know, I'm not in support of it. And the reason why is that there's always two victims to an abortion, always. The child and the mother. And I just know too many people that were birthed and have been born out of what some would call rape or some would call incest. And how do you define that in Louisiana? You tell me. You know, a 19-year-old accidentally sleeps with a 15 or 16-year-old and thinks that she's older than what she is, and there's a life coming out of it. Or is that, you know, I could go down the list and give you all kinds of you know, examples, but you know, I'm the proponent that says I don't agree with exceptions. I just stand on that, and I really don't need to discuss it anymore.
And I want to talk to you also about abortion. There's been discussion about potentially adding exceptions for rape and incest into the law. Would you support that?
Look, you know, that's a very tough discussion. I mean, there's a lot of emotion on both sides. I would start from the fact that that when you talk about those exceptions, we're also talking about a crime as well. And we're also talking about someone, that woman especially, about the emotional challenges, the things that they're going through. Look, I'm open to having that discussion. I think it's going to be a discussion that's going to be had in the legislature. And I would tell you that I want to listen to what those discussions are and exactly how that plays out. But we want to make sure, look, in that sense, again, and it's part of the crime portion too, right? Mm-hmm. We want to create a criminal system that dissuades people from engaging in that type of conduct. The more we reduce that type of conduct, the more that doesn't become an issue.
Sure. And in regards to abortion, with the abortion ban that's currently in place in law, there have been some cases where doctors have been hesitant to perform the life-saving care to save the mother due to the fear of the liability they have of the potential jail time. What's kind of your response to that fear that some doctors may have?
They evidently haven't they have not read the letter that we put out way at the very beginning. And I would tell you that doctors that are doing that are more likely to be exposing themselves to severe malpractice. The law in Louisiana is extremely clear, okay? What it really does, what the law, it gives that doctor the ability to address the health care of the mother. And really, as long as they're not terminating or aborting a healthy pregnancy that's unwanted, then the law gives them plenty of latitude to address emergency situations. So doctors that are saying, I keep hearing doctors are saying that, but I can't find a doctor to come to my office and let us go through the law. We have worked with the board of medical examiners to clearly help to dispel those things, and so I don't believe it. I haven't seen that.
And there's been discussion about potentially clarifying the viability list, the list of conditions that the fetus could have that would allow for an abortion. There's still a lot of things that aren't involved.
Well, but again, we haven't. Well, again, I mean, look, I think the laws that we have are great. Okay, look, my mother was an unbelievable pro-life activist. She believed in the sanctity of life. And I think that Louisiana has led on that time and time again. And the great thing about Louisiana is that we also show that we're compassionate as well. And so at a time when Roe has been overturned, I think our focus should go back to the woman, right? And who may find themselves in a very uncomfortable position. And how do we grant them support? How do we help, again, allowing healthy pregnancies and those babies to find a great place in life? And so that's the discussion I want to have.
And I want to talk also about abortion. And it's another big social issue that I'm sure we're not finished talking about despite the Dobbs decision. Louisiana has one of the most strictest bans right now, and there has been talk of potentially bringing exceptions for rape and incest. So if a bill like that crossed your desk, what would you do with it?
Well, look, I support the law as it is right now, but look, I'm open to listening to anything. I haven't dug in and said on this issue or that issue other than the money, because that's where I'm at every day. Okay, all these other issues, I'm an open-minded, like I said, I'm a God-fearing, loving man and love people. So we'll take a look at everything that comes across. But if the legislature sends you something that's overwhelmingly supported, I don't know if there's a scenario where I don't sign that bill. But what I really hope to do, and as I said to at some forums this week, that we need to do a lot more communicating on up front before it even makes it through the process, to where it's not an I got you moment, and it shouldn't be an I got you moment. And if it's an I got you moment, then we need to change the process, because that's not good for anybody. Because somebody's being taken advantage of. So I think we have to be much more transparent. And at the end of the day, it's a lot of work. People don't realize just how much work the process takes. But we can get a lot better, obviously, because look how the last session ended. It's not the first time. Look, I was there 7, 8 years ago, and I remember standing in the back of the chamber just shaking my head, saying, what am I doing here? And we went into a special session when the budget never passed out under Bobby Jindal. But let me tell you something too. I don't necessarily always think that disagreement's a bad thing. It brings things to attention. It's how you handle it, more than anything. And it's you and I can disagree, but you know what? At the end of the day, I'm going to love you, I'm going to respect you, and we moving on. But we don't have enough of that. This thing gets really, really personal. We need to take that out, because this shouldn't be personal. This is about business, right? It's somebody's business, and I don't mean necessarily business. I mean, but it's your personal business. Everything that's happening has effect on somebody in one way, shape, or form. But man, we have lost the trait, or I lose the term, but we don't know how to have a common conversation and disagreement anymore. You're either wrong or right, and there's no in between. When you live 62 years, you find out there's more than one opinion in the world, and it's not mine. I mean, and if you're going to be successful in life, you need to listen to people, and you need to listen to people you don't agree with more than anything if you're going to make some progress.
And another issue that's on a lot of voters' minds still, Louisiana has one of the most strictest abortion bans currently in the country. Should you be elected and a bill come across your desk that allows exceptions for rape and incest, would you be in support of that?
So I was one of 4 Republicans that voted in favor of the rape and incest exception last year, not in 2023 and 2022. So, I mean, that was even before the governor came out in favor of that. So I would definitely support that. I think that is by far the most reasonable position. I think that's supported by most people in Louisiana, and I honestly I couldn't not support that, and so that's why I supported in the legislature, and I would continue to do it as governor.
And would you identify yourself as pro-life as well?
Yes, I would say I'm pro-life. I think as far as the the general concept, but I think that the abortion exception for rape and incest, I think, is just very needs to be there.
And Louisiana has one of the strictest abortion bans currently in the country. Would you be open or in support of adding any kind of further exceptions into this law that we currently have?
Well, as you may or may not know, I worked very hard with Senator Jackson 2 years ago to help make sure that we have some of the strongest abortion laws or pro-life laws on the books. And as the Dobbs decision had been leaked, we were in session, and that was an opportunity for us to look at all of the legislation that we had done over the many years and to make sure that we didn't have any loopholes in that legislation and to prepare for potential litigation, which of course every state is in. And we did that through an amendment on Senator Jackson's bill to shore up the laws on Louisiana to make sure that we continue to be one of the most pro-life states in the country. We have right now 2 exceptions in the law, and that is protecting the life of the mother and the viability of the fetus. We've talked about, in the public about whether, that language is written clear enough. I believe that it is. Again, that's going to go through the courts, and the courts and people that are smarter than I in terms of legal interpretations will look at that. I have not seen any other legislation or any other bills proposed that I thought did a better job than what we have in place right now. And so I'm pretty happy with where we are in the state of Louisiana in terms of our pro-life legislation.
So should you be elected as governor and a bill came to your desk that allowed exceptions for rape and incest, would you sign it or would you veto it?
Well, again, it depends on the bill. I have not seen anything yet, and there have been other rape and incest bills that I thought were horrible. You have to read the bill. I'm going to read the bill before I would make any of that kind of decision. But I don't believe at this point that, I have not seen anything that I would support.
And Louisiana has one of the strictest abortion bans in the country, and there's been talks about adding exceptions for rape and incest. Would you sign a bill like that?
I do support exceptions, and I think there are more exceptions than rape and incest. I will tell you, I am personally pro-life, but over my 25 years, I have learned the importance of separating what I believe, what's good for me and my family, away from what's good for the public. And I believe that women ought to have that right to make a decision with a doctor. It ought not be the legislature that's determining those things. I think those issues are going to continue to permeate the debate. That's part of the extreme politics that are making women unhealthy, making them increasing the mortality rate for women across our state, and it's poorly implemented. The trigger laws are just not safe, and they're not protecting people. Again, let's let people make the decisions with those who are trained. It's not the legislature's decision or the governor's decision to legislate what you do with your body.
So would you identify yourself with your argument allowing the women to have choice, or would you rather just reform the current restrictions that we have?
Look, I think it's a transition. It's a spectrum of those issues. And so how I identify myself versus what the government should be doing for the masses of people. Remember, I am not dictating my beliefs on anyone else, whether they're religious beliefs or whether there's some other aspects of government. My job as governor is to provide a framework for you to be successful and achieve that. And I would suggest that the patients in our state, whether it's with cancer, diabetes, hepatitis, obesity, whatever it is, it's not the legislature's place to dictate what a doctor should do. That's a privacy issue between you and your doctor and anyone else that you choose to bring into that conversation. So what I call myself is irrelevant to the issue. Here's where we legislate. Here's where we govern. Here's how we lead. And let's not lead in these most extreme ways that we know is making us unsafe.
And looking back to the state legislature, we saw the budget passed in the last few minutes of the session, and there was the LDH money that was left out and a number of other issues. And while this kind of thing isn't exactly new to the legislature, it's really raised a lot of eyebrows. A lot of people are looking for answers to make sure that doesn't happen again. How would you handle a situation like that?
Listen, I think that speaks to a lack of transparency in the process. I think it's been done for years that way, and it's reckless. And we're seeing how important it is today because folks have started operating on the extreme. Taking $100 million could easily impact $700–800 million that touch people's lives. People's lives are at stake when we make those decisions. When you look at what we've done in infrastructure, for example, in terms of dredging the Mississippi River to 50 feet, under my term as secretary, we were able to achieve that. They've worked on that for 30+ years, and what do? We stripped the money from the ports to be able to leverage that investment. That's reckless. That is hurting our economy. The budget process needs a little bit more discipline. It needs a little bit more transparency, and we need not rush to make those decisions. I think we have to be thoughtful. Citizens are frustrated with that because they see the impact when it touches them personally, and it's just a political process. And the idea that we can afford to put people's lives and their professions and their careers in jeopardy with legislative decisions, whether it's at the Bond Commission, that we've seen some really crazy things happen there. Let's be responsible leaders. Let's be good stewards of our resources. Let's do what we do, what parents and families do with the kitchen table when they balance their checkbooks and they make priority decisions. Let's make those kinds of decisions at the state level. That's what I'll do as governor. I'm not going to participate and play in that process because people's lives matter. The value of what people see in their system matters in that process, and we've got to do a better job with that.
And Louisiana has one of the strictest abortion bans in the country right now, and there's been talk about potentially adding exceptions for rape and incest. What's your thoughts on that?
I think the current exemptions in the law are sufficient, and I don't support altering the law. I am a pro-life guy. I believe in pro-life. You know, that's a faith-driven process as well as a life experience process for me. My wife and I have 3 boys. They're awesome. I love them all. I'm proud of all of them. Our middle son was a product of a very challenging pregnancy. We got some pretty harrowing projections when she first got pregnant, and part of the advice we got was to possibly terminate. We decided to double down. We drove right into the face of those harrowing projections, and what we have today is an 18-year-old son, Christopher. He is autistic, but he is unbelievable. He's the light of our lives. He has made my other boys much better men, and they will be for the rest of their lives. He's made my wife and I better people, and our entire extended family has really changed because of Christopher's presence. So that's our own personal life experience, and so I'm so glad we gave him a chance at life. And so I am a pro-life guy. It's a faith-driven process. It's also one because of life experiences.